Good day and welcome. We are presenting our information on Pacman, the academic adventure. This is Team Melissa, Steve, and Nicole. I will be your host, Steve Coates. In this presentation, we will be going through the introduction. We'll be investigating the game Pacman. We'll talk a little bit about the rules. We'll share with you some human workload tasks. We'll show you our calibration of effort. And finally, we'll share with you some of the information we've learned about Pacman's influence. For over 37 years, Pacman has been a game that can provide a lot of energy and anticipation, whether played in an arcade setting or on a home computer, being chased by ghosts and collecting energizers in order to eat ghosts is a factor that players, both young and old, human and android, can't get enough of. Pacman is an easy game to learn, but a hard one to master. We chose this game because the many different strategies behind becoming an expert. We are eager to share with you what we have learned. Pacman, released in Japan in 1980 and North America in 1981, was created by Japanese designer Teru Iwatani. What began as a video game distributed by Namco in Japan and Midway in North America inspired a cult following, including a restaurant-style arcade in Schaumburg, Illinois, whose name was modeled after the unattainable Level 257. Before the birth of Pacman, Iwatani sought to design a game that would appeal to both male and female audiences. There are a few stories surrounding the inception of Pacman, the most famous being that a 22-year-old student was looking at a partially eaten pizza. Missing 2 slices, this legendary ghost eater, Pacman, was born. Since then, Pacman has had multiple games and spin-offs created following his passion. The rules of the game dictate that a player must eat all of the pellets and avoid the floating ghosts who seek to destroy Pacman. The ghosts always seem to be rushing in a direction of Pacman. However, his weaponry allow him to kill ghosts after eating certain coins. Pacman has been such a success over the years, multiple spin-offs and sequels have been created. Numerous game hardware have been offered, and it spanned many operating systems, including the Windows Smartphone 7. Human interaction within the game involves 2 instances: decision-making and action implementation. The user views a ghost and must decide an alternate path and then implement that decision using arrow keys. Recognizing that these are good tasks going away from the ghost or bad tasks going in the direction of the ghosts, the user continues by eating pellets or risks running into a ghost and losing a life. If the time needed to make the decision exceeds the speed in which the ghost is traveling towards Pacman, this will result in Pacman losing a life. Again, Pacman rules includes attempting to eat all the pellets in the level without being eaten by the ghosts. There are larger flashing coins or pellets that Pacman can eat, which will allow Pacman to eat ghosts as he is being steered towards the ghosts. The rules and steps on the computer are: using the arrows, steer Pacman to eat the pellets, avoiding the ghosts. After eating the big pellet, eat the ghosts for extra points. Repeat until 3 lives end, advancing levels when applicable. The task flow of the game and user process is depicted in this figure. The user starts the game, the first task being to avoid the ghosts as they appear. The second task being the user is attempting to eat the pellets, and the life ends each time the ghost eats Pac-Man. This happens 3 times until all lives have been spent and the game is over. Simultaneously, during this sequence, the user is determining which way to steer Pac-Man, either away from the ghosts or towards the ghost, after eating the large pellet and within the heightened sequence time. There are 2 distinct factors that separated our expert player from our novice player. The expert player was able to play the game for longer stretches than our novice, and thus had a large duration of human workload tasks. Having played more frequently, they are able to interpret and speed up the decision-making process. The novice player was less familiar with the controls and would frequently press the wrong button, driving Pac-Man in the wrong direction. Frustration would ensue, and they would struggle in course corrections, venturing down a wrong path. The expert was able to achieve a higher score during their performance. Here in this figure, the blue line represents the expert and the yellow the novice. You can see that the blue has higher success rates, as well as the yellow being lower and not as frequent success. However, during interrupted play, when the user had to shift cognitive resources from their game tasks to answer questions that were being presented to them, the expert player still outperformed the novice, but did not outperform himself or herself when compared with the uninterrupted play. Pac-Man is often spoke of as the pace setter for the golden age of arcade video games. However, today, Pac-Man is used in academia for scientific studies in robotics, biology, sociology, psychology, and specifically a study on computational intelligence. We observed a study by Rolfshagen and Liu studying the challenges of robots and computers to successfully complete various levels of Pac-Man, adding distractions along the way. A second study challenged artificial intelligence to a rule-based approach in learning Pac-Man. Their finding was that there needed to be a large amount of computation time to allow enough generations of algorithms to produce a good result, stating that the research didn't come close to capturing the variety of possible strategies used by humans in the full Pac-Man game. Referencing study Gallagher and Ryan, 2003. Pac-Man and its counterpoint, Miss Pac-Man, has been used to develop reinforcement learning algorithms to display the efficiency in completing complex tasks. In Sitza and Lorentz study, the subject has to make a sequence of decisions dependent upon observations during the game. Subjects are challenged with a variety of distractions to challenge the learning. The study is from 2007. And finally, Ben Wu and his colleagues published a study on how to generate intelligence of opponents at appropriate challenge levels, challenging the player's skill level through dynamic difficulty adjustments. Their findings were that expert players who were challenged to improve their win rate by 70%, while their novice players, who performed less of a challenge, optimized and won at 30% after about 7 minutes of gameplay. Pac-Man continues to fascinate and challenge both the experienced and novice player, human and android, in research studies or simply to enjoy the game. Pac-Man, at the age of 37, continues to enthrall and used as an investigation for scientific experiments. Simple algorithms create foundational work for other arcade games and scientific studies. Overall, it was interesting to visualize the information on charts and to see how a novice participant compared to experts' experience while playing Pac-Man. Pac-Man was presented in this study and could be applied to many different arcade games played in the world. It is fairly simple to conduct research study that has based around a single-player game. However, if we were to do this again, and more time were provided, we would suggest coming up with a more strategic design to study that would put more cognitive load on the participant while still providing a non-basis to both the participants. We thank you for your time and enjoy your day.